When teen siblings Logan and Briar vanish on Granite Ridge, the mountain is declared their grave, until a thermal drone glimpse 3 months later says otherwise. Driven by a promise, their older brother Aiden teams up with drone pilot Kate to hunt the impossible lead and uncovers an underground cult trafficking lost hikers. Enjoyed the story? Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and let us know your thoughts about the ending in the comments. Your support helps us create more deep and gripping stories just for you. There's more to come. Logan Clark balanced the GoPro on a finger-thick fir branch. The little camera's red LED winking in the alpine dawn. At 15, he already spoke to the lens with an easy swagger. Welcome back to Granite Ridge Adventures, crew. While 13-year-old Briar jabbed at him with a trekking pole, giggling about subscriber counts. Behind them, the ridgeline caught first light, jagged and gold against the jade sky. A wind smelling of quartz dust swirled through the pines and lifted the siblings' matching neon buffs. They set off, camera now strapped to Logan's chest harness. The trail clung to the granite spine, sometimes no wider than a shovel blade. Their banter, arguments over whether marmots or moose were cooler, bounced off stone and vanished into the valley static far below. Briar unpacked a chocolate bar on screen, teasing Logan for forgetting breakfast. He countered by zooming the lens into her smudged freckles until she squealed. Viewers, he promised, would love the sibling roast. Mid-morning, a hollow percussion echoed ahead, distant thunder, except the sky stayed polished blue. Logan slowed. The camera caught his brow furrowing. A pebble skittered past their boots, then another. Briar laughed nervously, comparing it to a video game earthquake. The ground gave a single, blunt shudder. Above, an overhanging shelf of slate cracked like splintering ice. The footage jolted as Logan spun, shouting for Briar to backtrack. Too late. A curtain of rocks, fist size, head size, tumbled, shredding the trail 20 meters behind them and kicking up a choking cloud. The siblings pressed against the cliff face, arms over skulls. Within those seconds the world became sound, gravel clattering, wind howling through the gap the slide had opened, Briar's quick, terrified breathing. When the rumble subsided, the ridge before them remained intact, but the way home was gone, transformed into a sheer drop, churning with settling debris. Logan's chest cam tilted down, nothing but gray chaos below. He steadied the GoPro with trembling fingers and tried joking about unplanned bivvy. Briar did not laugh. She pointed to the sky. The once gentle breeze had become a steady gale, flinging grit against their cheeks. They decided to press forward, hoping the main loop would descend to a ranger spur. The vlog caught snippets of forced optimism. Logan rating the adventure 10 out of 10 for drama. Briar recording coordinates on a paper map. Then, at 10:42 a.m., a second rockfall thundered from higher cliffs. The camera jerked sideways, view blurring into spinning sky and dust. Logan's startled curse cut off. Briar screamed his name. The final seconds showed the lens half obscured by grit, rocking violently. A roar like a freight train swallowed every human sound. Whine screeched against the microphone until it peaked in a digital hiss and cut to black. 2 hours later, a weather satellite logged the rock slide. By nightfall, search and rescue crews combed the ravine under floodlights. They recovered a torn lime green backpack, a cracked phone screen, and 30 seconds of corrupted GoPro data. No footprints led away from the collapse, and no thermal drone found a living shape. After a week, the county coroner issued a statement: probable accidental fall. The official file closed. Granite Ridge emptied of volunteers, except for one. In the nickel-cold twilight of late November, a ribbon of battery candles bobbed along Main Street like a slow river of fireflies. The townsfolk gathered every Friday now, heads bowed, mittens cupped around wavering flames that spelled one plea on cardboard placards: bring them home. At the head of the procession walked Margaret and Daniel Clark, shoulders touching yet worlds apart. Her eyes glistened, his stared straight ahead, dry and stunned. Their breaths clouded, mingled, vanished. 3 months had stretched and thinned like winter ice. Candlelight vigils replaced search parties. Casseroles and condolence cards replaced trail maps tacked to the sheriff's corkboard. Granite Ridge itself, once scuffed by dozens of SAR boots, lay sealed under the season's first blizzard, its switchbacks invisible beneath drifted snow that glinted blue in moonlight. Helicopters no longer thundered overhead. Even the bark of tracking dogs had faded into memory. Inside the Clark farmhouse, Aiden hunched over a laptop, scrubbing the corrupted GoPro files frame by flickering frame. He had memorized every glitch, every frozen pixel, but still he hunted for a phantom clue, an echo of his siblings beyond that avalanche of static. Coffee turned tar black in the mug beside him. Sleet rattled the gutters. When the playback crashed, he whispered a promise into the dim screen. "I'm not quitting, Loge. I'm not quitting, Bree." The words tasted like iron. At the county courthouse 2 weeks later, Sheriff Claiborne announced transition to limited operational status. Translation: no more overtime, no more chopper fuel. Reporters scribbled, cameras flashed. Aiden stood at the back, fists in pockets, hearing only the hollow echo of budget numbers. Deputy Ron Myers brushed past and muttered, "Time to let the mountain keep what it took." The hiss between their shoulders felt colder than the wind outside. December settled like ash. Margaret taped plastic angels to a bare fur in the living room. 28 for every day Logan and Briar remained missing. Daniel, once the loudest laugh in any room, spent hours in the barn restoring an antique tractor that would never run. The clang of his wrench was a language of denial. Aiden tried to bridge them, but conversation snagged on silence. Grief, he realized, had separate bedrooms. By New Year's Eve the ridge was unreachable. Wind-loaded cornices hung like ivory scythes over the ravine. Local news aired a final segment, slow panning across snowbound trailheads while a somber cello sighed. Viewers changed channels. Life, indifferent, rolled on. That night, Aiden stood alone on the porch, frost creaking under his boots, and watched Orion blaze above the barn roof. He inhaled the biting air, tasted pine smoke from a neighbor's chimney, and let the silence carve intention into his bones. When the thaw comes, he murmured to the stars, "I'm going back up there, alone if I have to." His breath rose like a vow, crystallized, and drifted south on the wind toward Granite Ridge, where darkness waited with patient teeth. The first warm wind of April combed silver ripples through the high grass as Kate Holloway knelt on a granite slab above the tree line, unpacking her new toy, a DJI Mavic 3 thermal no larger than a crow. She snapped on the propeller guards, boots sinking into thaw-soft moss, and muttered field notes into a lapel mic. Beta test, FLIR sensor update, 22:07 hours, sky clear. Below, the valley crouched in early darkness, its streams still crusted with winter porcelain. Engines hummed. The drone lifted, blinking green. On her tablet, the daylight camera faded to monochrome and then, at a thumb tap, bloomed into thermal colors. Sap-rich spruce trees glowed dull orange, granite boulders cooled to violet, and a black seam of logging road cut west toward federal land gone mostly unloved since the mine closure. Kate pursed her lips. She wasn't here for forestry tonight. She was here because Aiden Clark had slipped a GPS coordinate into her mailbox with a single line, "Look again when the snow melts." She guided the Mavic along that road for 15 minutes before something flickered on screen. A pair of teardrop heat signatures moving against the blue cold backdrop. Kate zoomed. Two figures trudged side by side beyond the easement line, their bodies burnt ochre at the core, limbs shading to dim crimson. No headlights, no campfire, just the slow, deliberate gait of hikers who didn't want to be seen. She glanced at the timestamp, 22:19. Curfew in the county closed all trailheads at dusk. Aiden's coordinates pointed to an off-grid cabin once owned by a prepper who died in '98. The property now sat in paperwork limbo, no taxes paid. The figures were skirting that cabin now, outlines quivering in nocturnal heat shimmers. Kate switched the overlay to measurement mode. Height: approximate 1.62 meters. Her pulse snagged. Logan Clark's last physical recorded at school had listed him 5'4", 1.62. She swallowed, ran the calc again, adjusted altitude, 1.63 m. Margin of error, 5 centimeters. She keyed the handheld radio. Whispered to Timberwolf, "Come in." Static crackled. Then Aiden's voice broke through, breathless. Kate kept her eyes on the tablet. I have 2 contacts at the target cabin. No vehicles, moving slow. One height matches your brother within tolerance. Silence, then a ragged exhale. Aiden asked, "Can you keep eyes?" She nodded reflexively, though he couldn't see. Battery says 22 minutes. I'll circle. On screen, the taller figure paused, seemed to glance skyward as if sensing the invisible lens. Kate's stomach knotted. The person lifted an arm and shoved the hood back, revealing a mop of shaggy hair, too pale for an adult logger. A gust swung the drone. Telemetry chirped a wind warning. When the frame steadied, both heat shapes had slipped under the cabin's lean-to awning and vanished. Kate whispered a curse. She swung the Mavic lower, IR image ghosting with pixel snow. The awning's tin roof bled faint warmth from a recent fire, but no interior scan could penetrate. Her countdown flashed red, 19 minutes. Enough, maybe, to mark coordinates and return. She toggled the waypoint, voice barely audible. Timberwolf, target sealed. I'm sending live feed. Decide fast. Aiden's reply came back like gravel underfoot. No more waiting. I'm grabbing gear. Meet you at Trailhead 0330. Kate exhaled, hit return to home on the console, and watched the drone turn north, its LED strobing through darkness like a tiny, determined star. Morning frost still glazed the courthouse steps when Aiden and Kate queued outside the sheriff's office, drone tablet clutched like a holy relic between them. Sheriff Claiborne barely raised an eyebrow at the thermal footage before sliding it back across the desk. Pixel ghosts, he ruled. Probably hunters in vintage gear. We have no jurisdiction on abandoned property, and I'm not burning county overtime on phantoms. His pen resumed scratching payroll forms. Verdict delivered. Deputy Ron Myers lingered by the doorway, arms folded, a bruise-colored smirk tugging his lip. Mountains make echoes, Clark. Learn to hear the difference. Kate opened her mouth, but Aiden's hand on her sleeve warned silence. Arguing in that office felt like yelling in a snowpack. Every word muffled, absorbed, forgotten. They left with the tablet untouched, the door clicking shut like a lock on hope. Outside, only one local reporter still bothered with the case, and even she stifled a yawn while jotting half-hearted notes. The news cycle had churned on to fresher tragedies. Missing teenagers no longer spiked ratings. When Kate tried to hand her a USB of the footage, the journalist waved it away, mumbling about editor bandwidth. The wind smelled of deicer and stale coffee grounds. That night, maps carpeted Aiden's bedroom floor. USGS quads, LiDAR prints, decades-old mining surveys, all stitched by neon thread into a private constellation. In the center lay a weathered silver compass, its glass polished by countless anxious thumbs. Aiden tapped it, and memory slid open like a hidden drawer. Summer, 2 years before the disappearance. He'd knelt beside Briar in a sun-drenched meadow, teaching her to box the needle. Wild lavender had smeared perfume on their shins. Bees droned like distant engines, and Briar's face, sprinkled with freckles, knit in fierce concentration until the needles settled north. She'd hooped, spun, and tackled him into the grass, shouting, "Now I'll never get lost." The promise hit him now, like a flare against dark watered. A knock scattered the memory. Margaret Clark hovered at the doorway, candlelight from the hall softening the new lines on her face. She didn't speak. Instead, she extended a trembling hand, palm up, and dropped a scuffed Garmin InReach Mini onto the map C. Its silicone strap was cracked, the screen spiderwebbed, but the device chirped as it powered on, stubborn heartbeat of lithium. Found in Logan's desk drawer, she whispered, voice hoarse from months of vigils. "Maybe you can make it talk." Before he could answer, she pressed her fingertips against his cheek, brief, electric, and left. The hallway swallowed her slippers shuffled. Aiden hooked the Garmin to a USB line. Amber digits fluttered, searching satellites through the roof. One unsent breadcrumb pinged, cabin W. His pulse thudded. He tilted the compass north, overlaid the Garmin's coordinate on the map constellation, and saw the threads converge at the same off-grid clearing Kate had filmed. Sheriff be damned. Mountains might echo, but echoes came from something solid. He zipped the watch into his jacket pocket, snuffed the overhead lamp, and stared at the dark ridge line through the window until the stars blurred. "Hold on, kids," he breathed. "Your big brother's on his way." The vow felt heavier than armor, yet it warmed him as the house ticked and settled around midnight resolve. Dawn peeled a pewter sheen off the parking lot of Ridge Station as Aiden slammed his Tacoma's tailgate and dragged a coil of climbing rope onto the asphalt. Kate was already there, hood up, unpacking 2 steaming mugs from a thermos. Her greeting was brisk. "Garmin lead solid." He handed her the printed waypoint. Their fingers brushed sparks off winter-dry skin. She scanned the numbers, nodded, and passed him coffee black enough to stain breath. While they checked gear, headlights swept in tight. Deputy Ron Myers climbed from his cruiser, thumbs hooked in the bulletproof vest. "Clark," he drawled, "heard you're planning a Sunday picnic past the easement." His breath made ghosts in the cold. Aiden locked eyes, shoulders squared. "Public land. Not your business." Myers tapped the badge on his chest. "Missing persons file is closed. Let go slide." The warning stuck like asphalt grit between teeth. Kate stepped in, voice even. "Forest Service drone overflight logs my presence, deputy. Any obstruction and you'll file paperwork till harvest." Her smile never reached her eyes. Myers studied them, jaw flexing, then spat to the side. "Mountain'll teach what paperwork can't." He climbed back into the cruiser, tires crunching frosted gravel as he left. Only when the engine faded did Kate let out the breath she'd been holding. Trailhead marker 12B greeted them, with icicles dangling from the mileage sign. Every step past it felt like walking off society's map. Snowmelt had carved slick veins across the switchbacks, and mist rose from the ground in spectral ribbons. Aiden led, compass leveled, while Kate alternated between waypoints and wide arcs to keep the Mavics eye above timber. Once a raven flapped directly over the drone, croaking like it carried gossip. For hours in, the cabin emerged, a squat silhouette buried to its windowsills in wind-packed snow. Smoke did not curl from the stovepipe, but the surrounding drifts were pocked with recent boot holes half filled by new powder. Kate crouched beside one, index finger sinking into the imprint. Older tread, she noted 6, maybe 7 days. Aiden's gaze snapped to the door. Padlock hung, unlatched. Inside, the air retained the sour sweet tang of extinguished kerosene. Aiden's headlamp slid over bunk beds, a rusted water pump, and a wood stove whose belly still pulsed faint warmth. He knelt, brushing gray ash until he uncovered a red coal no bigger than a ladybug. "Someone banked a fire last night," he whispered. The fact vibrated in the close cabin gloom. Kate's beam froze on something caught between floorboards, a strip of turquoise fleece. She eased it free. A child's scarf, frayed but unmistakable, embroidered with tiny comic book owls. Aiden's knees buckled. He recognized Briar's handiwork, hours of after-school stitching. The scarf still smelled faintly of the lavender detergent their mother used. Adrenaline, minted iron, on Aiden's tongue. He folded the scarf, slid it into a zip bag, and met Kate's eyes, bright, urgent. They were here. She nodded once. The drone outside buzzed a low alarm, battery critical. In the distance, clouds corralling over the ridge hinted at incoming weather, but neither spoke of retreat. The hunt, at last, had spoor. The sky bruised to gunmetal by mid-afternoon, driving sleet sideways across the ridges as Aiden and Kate hiked south from the cabin. Between jags of static on the in-reach display, a lone ping burst to life. Lat 43.1186, lawn minus 121.9764. The icon pulsed deep inside Devil's Fork Gorge, a canyon the locals avoided even in high summer. Aiden's jaw set. "That's Logan's watch ID." Kate flicked rain from her eyelashes. "Then we go wrestle the devil." The gorge yawned before them an hour later. Sheer basalt walls plunging 60 meters where spring runoff frothed white. Mist rose in lung-seizing cold sheets. A rotten cedar, felled by last winter's storms, angled conveniently across the lip. Aiden slung a static line around its base, tested the anchor twice, then clipped his harness. "You belay from here. Pull twice if you see rockfall," he shouted above the roar. Kate's reply was a thumbs up, knuckles white on the brake rope. He lowered himself into the void, boots skimming wet stone, the river's voice swelling until it filled his chest cavity. Halfway down, Gus flung spray like needles against his cheeks. The GPS chirped louder on his wrist, and nearer, he swung to a narrow ledge veiled in moss. There, an orange glint nestled among river-polished cobbles. He unhooked, crouched, and lifted a mud-caked Garmin Instinct 2 with the strap trimmed to child length. The screen lit at his touch, but instead of data, a looping bitmap played, for a laughing emoji cycling over static. Beneath the gorget of scratched glass, the K-screws were missing. The board inside had been bridged with a copper jumper, crudely forcing constant beacon mode until the battery bled dry. Decoy. His stomach lurched as though the canyon shifted beneath him. Someone wanted them here, chasing caricatures to high above. Kate scanned the rim through binoculars and felt her skin crawl. Against the stormy skyline stood a lone silhouette, broad-shouldered, hooded, camera lens glinting like a single cold eye. The watchers snapped photos. The motor drive rasped faint but distinct before melting backward into timber. Kate yanked the rope twice hard. Aiden caught the signal and began ascending, fingers numb against rope slick with drizzle. Each pull felt slower, heavier, as the gorge amplified every heartbeat in earthquake thuds. He heaved onto the lip, breathing steam, and Kate dragged him clear. "We were photographed," she panted, pointing to the empty skyline. "They know we're hunting." Aiden flipped the gutted watch toward her. Rain spattered its laughing faces. "And they're feeding us crumbs." Thunder rolled over Devil's Fork as they hurried to coil rope. Somewhere beyond the pines, a vehicle engine revved, then faded, a shadow withdrawing now that its trap had sprung. Kate stowed the drone, jaw clenched. "Next time we don't chase signals. We trace the sender." Aiden pocketed the decoy. "We just confirmed they're alive and being moved. That's not failure. It's direction." Yet even he felt the gorge's laughter echoing off basalt as they hiked out under hardening rain. 2 dawns after the gorge fiasco, fog lay thick as wool over the service road where Kate assembled the Mavic 3 thermal for a reconnaissance hop. Sap dripped from thawing furs like slow clocks. Aiden monitored the tablet, the decoy watch zip bag beside his coffee. "Quick sweep," he said, voice hushed by the mist. "We nail direction. We pull out." The drone cleared the canopy and fed a river of infrared back to the screen, until the feed smothered in static stripes. A red banner flashed. Signal interference. Returning TO home. Kate tapped overrides. The commands lagged, then froze. Overhead, the drone's LED winked erratically before it drift spiraled, fighting invisible glue. She slammed the console. They're jamming 2.4 and 5.8 gigs simultaneously. Mil-spec spoof. The Mavic pancaked into a snowbank 50 meters away, rotors chewing slush. Kate sprinted, cursing. By the time she retrieved it, 2 antennas wired to a car battery lay half-buried at the timber edge. Jury-rigged, but lethal to drones. Aiden knelt to inspect the wrecked shell. Thermal lens spiderwebbed. "Flight log survived," he murmured, slotting the micro-SD into a case. Hope sparked, brief, bright, before tire crunch announced a new arrival. Deputy Myers's cruiser growled to a halt. He exited slowly, one hand resting on his sidearm, the other brandishing a folded warrant. Confiscation under county ordinance. Unlicensed UAV in wildlife corridor. Kate opened her mouth, but Myers snatched the shattered drone, tossing it onto his back seat like roadkill. His gaze locked on Aiden's clenched fist around the SD card case. "Everything, Clark." Aiden's heartbeat drum rolled in his ears. He slid the case into Myers's palm, teeth grinding. The deputy smirked. "Mountain ghosts don't like cameras. Go home before they take more than your toys." He left in a spray of gravel, red taillights bleeding through fog. Silence dropped like a bar across the road. Kate touched Aiden's sleeve. He jerked as if waking. The gesture unlocked a memory he kept stitched tight. He was 11 again, crouched beside 10-year-old Logan on a soccer field, night air heavy with cut grass. Logan's lungs clamped mid-game. Wheezes whistled like broken reeds. Aiden fumbled the inhaler, but Briar, only 8, knelt first, steady hands guiding the spacer to her brother's lips, counting breaths aloud. Logan's eyes clung to hers, panic ebbing with each metered puff. Afterwards, he'd gripped Briar's pinky and whispered, "Couldn't breathe without you." The field dissolved. The fog road returned. Aiden's chest clenched not with memory, but with arithmetic. Logan's rescue inhaler would be long expired. Cold, exertion, fear, all triggers. Every hour stolen by Myers shaved safety thin as river ice stopped. "We're out of time," he said, voice carved flat. Kate met his stare, eyes flaring with the same stubborn fire. "Then we stopped playing by their rules." Aiden inhaled sleet-edged air, feeling the mountain watch. "First, we get that SD card back. Tonight." Decision hardened between them like forged steel, unaffected by the drone wreckage or the deputy's disappearing taillights. Only by the sound of a boy once gasping for breath he might soon lose forever. Midnight poured inky silence over the county maintenance yard, broken only by the rhythmic clack of a lone sodium lamp swinging in prairie wind. Aiden ghosted along the chain-link perimeter, counting camera cones the way a diver counts heartbeats before a deep plunge. Beside him, Kate flattened bolt cutters and a battered laptop inside her pack. The red LED on her watch read 0:43. "Window between patrol sweeps is 4 minutes," she whispered. "Ready." Bolt jaws kiss steel. The link snapped with a muted pop. They slid through, re-threaded the chain, then sprint crouched toward the corrugated warehouse that doubled as evidence impound. Aiden's pulse drummed, so loud he feared the motion sensor would pick it up. At the side door he produced a key card, borrowed from a janitor's lanyard during an accidental coffee spill. The LED blinked green. The lock thunked. Inside, rows of confiscated dirt bikes and busted stills stood like ghosts under tarp. Fluorescent bulbs slept, leaving only emergency strips lighting a jaundiced glow. Kate yanked a tarpaulin aside to reveal the battered Mavic, zip-tied to a plastic bin. She flicked her multi-tool. The ties surrendered. "SD slot's empty," she hissed. Aiden scanned the cage labels. Evidence/case 370B. A steel locker at the far wall matched the tag dot. He pried the locker door with a flat bar. Hinges side. Inside, sealed envelopes, a .22 pistol, and a micro SD in an anti-static sleeve. He pocketed it, then paused. Another envelope bulged, labeled Ward/Ark Sanctuary, photo negatives. Aiden's gut tightened. He slid it free. 7 glossy prints spilled into his hand, moonlight from the skylight illuminating them like crime scene flashes. The images punched breath from his lungs. Logan and Briar, haggard, hands zip-tied, being herded by 2 camo-clad men toward a mud-spattered Polaris UTV. A third figure, Elias Ward, loomed in the frame, arm raised as if blessing livestock. Briar's scarf, the turquoise owls, fluttered from her neck. The timestamp corner read, "Only 3 nights prior." Kate snapped out of the shock first. Footsteps, 2 sets, clacked on concrete outside the office partition. They killed headlamps. Aiden stuffed the prints into his jacket, while Kate slid beneath a shelving unit draped in tarps. The door handle rattled. Fluorescent tubes flickered awake, casting star shadows. Myers' voice drifted in with that of another deputy. "We'll log the drone tomorrow. Let's grab coffee." Keys jingled. The footsteps retreated. Heartbeats stole seconds before they moved again. Kate produced a thumb drive, slid the SD into a laptop, and copied the flight log with trembling fingers. The progress bar crawled, 72, 88, 100%. She ejected, wiped surfaces for prints, and nodded. Aiden reset the locker door, resealed the cut fence link with a twist of baling wire, erasing their ghost trail. They slipped back into the prairie night, lungs burning with cold adrenaline. At the truck, Aiden spread the photos on the dashboard. Kate illumined them with a red flashlight. Logan's hunched shoulders, Briar's forced bravery, Ward's serpent calm. Every pixel screamed urgency. Kate finally spoke. "UTV plates?" Aiden zoomed a phone lens on the blurry rectangle. 68RK5. He keyed into a notepad app. "We track that vehicle. We find them." By dawn, the UTV plate traced to a shell company paying surge price fuel with prepaid gift cards. Most invoices signed in AS, Shorthand Aiden matched to a defunct nonprofit called New Ark Sanctuary. A Google-cached brochure bragged, a wilderness retreat for wayward youth. Its address hidden behind a P.O. box. Aiden's finger hovered over the screen. Ward's been laundering them through a fake rehab. Kate hacked the flight log. GPS breadcrumbs painted a triangle between Granite Ridge, Devil's Fork, and a logging spur beyond county lines. That spur ends at Old Baxter Mill, abandoned since '92. She zoomed satellite view. Tin roofs, propane tanks, acreage ringed by motion fences. They're building a fortress. Before they could plan, a sheriff's wideband alert buzzed every handset. All units. Assist search at Baxter Mill. Suspect armed, children present. Aiden's guts sank. Myers fed them our lead. Now he wants credit. Kate tossed the Tacoma keys, jaw set. Then we moved faster. They reached the mill road first. Headlights off, rolling through mist like a submarine. Ahead, brake lights blinked. Myers' cruiser blocking the spur. He paced beside Ward's black SUV, phone to ear. At his feet, the ground glittered with shattered glass. Evidence envelopes burned to ash. Ward's people were loading crates into the UTV, ready to vanish deeper into timber dock. Kate swung the wheel, but gravel clattered. A lookout turned, raising a shotgun. Lead pellets peppered the hood. She hit the gas. The UTV fishtailed ahead, spraying mud. They gave chase along a rutted fire break, pines whipping by in strobe flashes of dawn. A switchback hairpin caught them blind. Kate cranked too late. The Tacoma skidded, passenger side slamming a stump. Glass exploded. Pain shot crimson up her calf. Tibia slashed by a sheared door panel. She bit down a scream, blood seeping into wool sock. Aiden killed the engine, eyes flicking from the fading roar of the UTV to Kate's injury. Hospital's 20 miles, he rasped. Kate gripped his arm, nails moons white. You leave, they disappear forever. Her voice shook, but held iron. Field dress it. He fetched the trauma kit, adrenaline frosting his fingertips. Splint from trekking pole halves, pressure wrap of clean gauze, antibiotic spray that hissed like angry soda. She hissed louder, sweat beading her brow. He injected lidocaine, apologizing under breath. Finally, he strapped her boot tight with duct tape. Wait, she tested, grimaced. I can hobble. They ditched the crippled truck, continued on foot along a logging skid, Kate leaning on Aiden's shoulder. The forest swallowed tire tracks, but the sound of a distant engine came and went, a breadcrumb of combustion. We're not far behind, Aiden murmured, though dread gnawed him. Every step risked Kate's legs swelling beyond help. An hour later they reached a rise overlooking Baxter's south clearing. Down below, Ward's group dismantled antennas, loading the last crate into a panel van. Myers' cruiser idled nearby. Conspirator turned escort. Kate's breath rattled. One shot before they vanish. Aiden adjusted binoculars, heart a piston. He had gambled her leg, their freedom, and perhaps 2 lives on this very moment. The wager burned in his chest, bright as flare light on fresh snow. Late afternoon sun speared through fir trunks, striping the forest floor in amber bars, when Aiden heard water chatter ahead. They hobbled onto a narrow creek bank, snowmelt running quick and clear. Across the glinting surface a slim figure crouched, filling an old military canteen. Shaggy blonde hair, neon-frayed backpack straps, too small for an adult. Logan. Aiden's throat locked. Loge, he called, voice cracking between jubilation and warning. The boy's head jerked up, blue eyes flooded with rabid terror. For a heartbeat brother and sister, Briar stood half hidden behind him, seemed to recognize safety. Then a whistle broke from the timberline, sharp as a hawk's scream. Logan bolted, dragging Briar upslope in a brushed up. Kate hissed, pain flaring as she vaulted the creek, but adrenaline drowned caution. They followed broken twigs and sliding footprints until the forest opened onto a reclaimed logging cut scarred by recent tire ruts. There, half buried in fir needles, yawned a rusted blast door set into the hillside, just wide enough for children to... Aiden pressed an ear against the cold iron. Muffled voices, a scraping latch. They're inside. He wedged the door with a pry bar. Hinges complained but surrendered. A corridor slanted downward, lit by a string of battery lamps. The air smelled of diesel and wet earth. "Quick," Kate urged, leg trembling. We grabbed them now. 20 meters in, motion sensors snapped red. Aiden froze, but nothing happened. He advanced to a junction where fresh footprints veered left. To the right lay a steel grate padlocked and wired with thick cable. Kate's brow furrowed. Power conduit. But to what? As if in answer, the floor jolted. Aiden caught Kate as bulbs blinked out, replaced by throbbing red strobes. A low rumble mounted to artillery thunder. The entire tunnel was wired with demolition charges. "Booby trap," he yelled. They sprinted back, lungs burning, dust geyser behind them, concrete shattering like dry bone. They burst into daylight as the hillside belched a cough of debris. Aiden shoved Kate flat behind an overturned skidder just as a shockwave slapped the clearing, hurling slate shards over their heads. Silence rang loud as church bells in the aftermath. Birds fled in black streams. Coughing dust, Kate checked her splint, splitting pain, but no new blood. Aiden peered through settling grit. The blast door lay buried under tons of rock. Any passage beyond was sealed. They said to collapse behind them, he muttered. The false victory curdled on his tongue. Yet hope flickered. Among scattered debris lay a single torn wristband, the neon webbing from Logan's backpack. Aiden pocketed it gently, fist trembling. They were here minutes ago. They're close. Kate managed a wan grin. And they think we're dead. Sirens wailed distant on the Baxter Road, Myers bringing the cavalry too late. Aiden helped Kate stand, determination annealed by dust and failure. We circle south, find our exit. The game's even now. Above, the ridge echoed a second rockfall, Ward raising every breadcrumb. But somewhere beyond the tree line, two frightened siblings were still moving, and their big brother was not done. Night smothered the ridge in a wet quilt of fog, stitched by sleet that rattled dry needles from the pines. Aiden and Kate sheltered beneath a toppled logging trailer, its rusted frame radiating metallic cold. The improvised field bandage on Kate's calf had bled through. Fabric clung dark and tacky. She stared at it a long time, then at the black forest where Ward's convoy had vanished. Maybe Myers was right, she murmured, breath ghosting. Maybe the mountain keeps what it takes. Aiden's reply stalled in his throat. The diesel reek, the ache in his shoulders, the hiss of sleet, each stacked atop exhaustion until words would have cracked. Instead, he opened the battered wallet he kept sealed in a Ziploc. From it, he pulled a creased birthday card, Briar's handwriting looping across glitter paper. Big bro, you're my forever compass. I'll never leave you lost. 9 years old, clumsy hearts drawn in the margins. Memory unreeled, backyard lanterns, a sheet cake slumped with candles shaped like owls. Briar stood on a picnic bench, glitter glue still wet on her card, declaring to cousins that her brother was better than any GPS. She'd sworn the pledge with cake icing on her chin. Logan laughing so hard his inhaler wheezed. The warm July night smelled of hose water and citronella. Aiden had lifted her down, promising in return, never leave you either. The car now felt as weighty as lead. Aiden passed it to Kate, hands steady despite the tremor in his gut. She believed that, he said. Both of them did. The mountain hasn't stolen them. It's waiting for us to finish the climb. Kate traced the glitter letters. Her shoulders sagged, then squared. My leg could slow you. Aiden shrugged off his pack, extracting a sealed ampoule of ketorolac and a fresh compression sleeve. Then we move at half speed, twice the grit. He injected the analgesic. Kate sucked air through her teeth, but color returned to her cheeks. Wind parted the fog for a heartbeat, revealing the south flank of the ridge where faint tire grooves stitched uphill, fresh ones following Ward's exodus. Aiden zipped the card back into its waterproof tomb. They're not ghosts, Katie. They're kids walking in the dark, waiting for light. He shouldered his pack, offered her a hand. Let's be the light. The next evening, Aiden parked the borrowed county van outside Doyle's Tavern, where deputies nursed overtime beers far from official eyes. He palmed Kate's phone, audio app live, screen dimmed, and slid it beneath a napkin dispenser at the bar's back booth. Deputy Ron Myers already slouched there, rolling a chipped poker chip across his knuckles, pupils glassy with cheap urban dot. Aiden approached with 2 fresh drinks, feigning camaraderie. Ron, heard the sheriff chewed you out for losing Ward. He sympathized. The deputy grunted, eyeing the glass greedily. Claiborne's broke, same as the county, he slurred. Ward's the only man around here paying his debts. My debts. Myers leaned closer, breath sour. 20 grand to the wrong bookie. Ward said he'd clear it if I kept search teams chasing decoys. Newark is his kingdom. Don't need no badges sniffing. I just jam the drones, burn the files, keep the ghosts friendly. He laughed, a brittle cracked it. The phone captured every syllable. Aiden let the deputy ramble about conversion therapy bunkers and premium organs for rich pilgrims. When Myers finally staggered toward the restroom, Aiden retrieved the device, heart hammering like a nailed lid. Outside, Kate waited in the shadows, headphones already paired. She listened, jaw tightening. Got him. They drove straight to Sheriff Claiborne's house, rousing him from a late-night football replay. The sheriff bristled at their intrusion until Kate set the phone on his kitchen table and pressed play. Myers' voice oozed through tinny speakers, admitting bribes, describing child prisoners. Claiborne's complexion drained to parchment. Delete that recording, he ordered hoarsely. Aiden folded his arms. Copies in cloud storage, set to email state police if we don't check in every 6 hours. Kate added, and to 3 local reporters. Silence spread like spilt oil. Finally, the sheriff exhaled. What do you want? Full tactical warrant, Kate said, sliding a pre-typed affidavit across the counter. County deputies, SAR volunteers, state troopers if you can pull strings. We hit Baxter Watershed at dawn, before Ward moves the kids again. Claiborne read, hands shaking. If this backfires, I'm done. Aiden's stare was flint. If you stall, for children are done. Minutes later, Claiborne signed, stamping county seal with a final thunk. He picked up the radio, voice iron flat. All units, code 7 mobilization. Target, Newark Sanctuary Sector Blue. Briefing 0430. As the dispatch crackled to life, Aiden felt a gear click inside the night. Hope engaging. Outside, dawn's first graphite smudge lifted behind the ridge. Kate leaned against the squad car, exhaustion and morphine balancing in her eyes. Right at sunrise, she whispered. Aiden squeezed her shoulder. This time, we're not the ghosts. Sirens began to wail across sleeping neighborhoods, gathering every blue light toward the mountain. Dawn draped old Baxter Mill in pewter light, while ice-crusted pines creaked like tired hinges, shedding crystals that pinged off ride helmets. Overhead, a recon quadrotor thrummed, steady, insect loud, its downwash riffling steam from the percolating generators below. The air reeked of gunmetal and cold diesel, a smell that settled on tongues like pennies. Sheriff Claiborne's voice, amplified through a bullhorn, bounced off tin roofs. Newark Sanctuary. Drop weapons and show hands. State troopers knelt behind snow-slick logs. SAR volunteers, orange-vested, flanked them with stretchers ready. Aiden adjusted his borrowed plate carrier, pulse sinking to the buzz-buzz of the drone. Beside him, Kate sat propped against a medic rig, headset linked to the aerial feed, her injured leg braced but eyes sharp. A crash of splintered plywood signaled entry. SWAT breached the main warehouse. Flashbangs barked, rolling white inside the bay. Colt guards in camo fumbled outdated shotguns before surrendering. Through the drone's thermal, red blobs scattered like ants whose hill had been kicked. Kate's voice crackled in Aiden's ear. Vent shaft, southeast corner. 2 figures just disappeared underground. Aiden and 2 troopers sprinted, pounding frost-stiff mud. The shaft cap lay askew. Warm air exhaled diesel taint. An aluminum ladder vanished in a black. I'm on point, Aiden said, clipping a descender to the side rails. The troopers followed, splash landing calf-deep in frigid water that filled a sloped service tunnel. The ice skin on the walls crackled each time their shoulders brushed past. Downstream, emergency lamps cast jittery halos. Doorways opened onto storage alcoves, crates labeled saline and type ONEG. The corridor ended at a steel bulkhead, forced ajar with a crowbar. Beyond, generator rumble merged with soft coughing dot. Inside, A makeshift infirmary occupied what had once been a dynamite room. For bags dangled from conduit. Cots lined the walls. Briar sat alert on one, wrist still zip-tied, but gaze fierce. Opposite, Logan lay half-conscious beneath a thermal blanket, inhaler pressed to cracked lips. His eyes flickered. Found Aiden, widened. "Bree Loge, it's me." Aiden sloshed forward. Relief punched knees to jelly. Briar's lips trembled, then curved. A fragile smile. "Told him you'd come," she rasped. The troopers cut their bindings. Briar immediately grasped Logan's hand, pulse checking like a practiced medic. Years of sibling drills had paid off. Logan wheezed. The inhaler was empty. Aiden swapped a fresh canister from his vest kit, counted the bursts. Color crept back into Logan's cheeks. Up close, both siblings were gaunt but unbroken, eyes bright with survival's stubborn ember. Over comms, Kate's voice cut in. Exterior secure. Ward unaccounted. Sirens echoed, faintly topside. Aiden lifted Logan. A trooper supported Briar. "Time to go home," he whispered, though thunder of boot heels in the passage warned the chapter wasn't closed. They retraced the tunnel, water sloshing, pines above creaking like frozen metronomes. At the ladder, Logan mustered a shaky grin. "Compass never quits," he rasped. Aiden felt the phrase strike, sure as Polaris. Behind them, the infirmary's lights flickered. Generator fuel finally starved. Night retreated before the first full blaze of dawn, and for a heartbeat, the world seemed carved from pure, bright possibility. Sirens still pulsed over Baxter Mill when a burst of radio panic cracked through the commnet. Ward spotted. North Service Tunnel. One juvenile hostage. Aiden's blood iced. He pivoted in time to see Briar. Hands newly zip-tied, shoved ahead of Elias Ward onto an ATV roaring toward the dam reservoir that fed the mill's turbines. The ATV fishtailed across the graded catwalk, straddling the spillway, wind whipping Ward's coat like a black flag. Police fanned out, but hesitated to fire. One ricochet would send bullets banking off steel into the girl. Aiden sprinted, lungs scalded, reaching the catwalk as Ward cut Briar's bonds and muscled her onto a 15-foot skiff moored below. Water thundered through sluice gates below, booming drum against the aluminum hull. Ward gunned the outboard. Spray exploded in moonstone sheets. Aiden vaulted the railing, hit the skiff's stern hard enough to crack a rib, and rolled, locking eyes with Briar. "Down!" he shouted. She flattened as Ward swung a nickel-plated Glock. The first shot screamed past Aiden's ear, sparking off the engine cowling. He lunged, grappling Ward's gun arm. The skiff yawed, water slewing over the transom. The men slammed into the deck, one heartbeat, two, before the pistol clattered into the bilge. Ward head-butted, stars blossomed behind Aiden's eyes, but instinct hauled them both upright in a desperate waltz. Briar scrambled aft and yanked the fuel line. Gasoline geysered, choking the outboard. The skiff lost thrust, slewing broadside toward the spillway lip where froth plummeted 40 feet. Ward roared, shoving Aiden backward. His heels snagged rope. They crashed against the gunnel. Ice water sheeted over their boots, numbing like electricity. Ward snatched a flare gun from his coat. Last insurance. He jammed the muzzle under Briar's chin, eyes rabid. "Back off, or the girl burns." Aiden's mind razored options. A shot, a tackle, a word. He chose memory. "Logan's breathing," he barked. "He's alive because of her. You kill her, you lose your leverage, and your profit." The hesitation was a flicker, but enough. Briar stomped Ward's instep. Aiden surged, wrenching the flare gun skyward as it discharged. A comet screaming harmless in a dawn. Momentum pitched both men over the side. They plunged into the tail race, current ripping like talons. Underwater was a world of green thunder. Water hammered his chest, drummed hull echoes against his skull. Aiden clawed upward, found Ward's coat, ripped it free. The cult leader's eyes bulged in frigid shock before the current slammed him against concrete pylons. Aiden kicked for the surface, lungs lava. Hands hooked his collar, state troopers leaning from a rescue skiff. He vomited water, vision tunneling. Onshore, officers wrapped blankets around Briar and Logan. Through the ringing in his ears, Aiden caught the crackle. suspect in custody, breathing. Aiden collapsed beside his siblings on the muddy bank. Briar pressed her forehead to his. Logan's shaky laugh mingled with sobs. In the sky above, the flare's dying ember dispersed into daylight, a fragile, silent firework marking the instant when ghosts turned real and the mountain finally gave them back. The ward smelled of iodine and warm sheet detergent, a civilized perfume after weeks of pine pitch and diesel. Logan dozed beneath a nebula-printed blanket, pulse ox beeping a gentle lullaby. Briar perched on the edge of the mattress, one knee bandaged where shale had scraped her, tracing constellations on her brother's cast with a washable marker. Aiden stood in the doorway, unable to step forward for fear the moment might fracture like thin glass. When Briar noticed him, her eyes shimmered like river quartz. She jumped up, pulled him into a hug that smelled of antiseptic and the lavender shampoo their mother insisted the nurses use. "Compass found north," she breathed. For the first time since Granite Ridge, Aiden let gravity go. He sank onto the spare chair, arms still around her, tears hotter than the coffee he'd lived on. Logan stirred. His voice was more rasp than sound, but the words were clear. "Can we go home soon?" Aiden managed a laugh. "As soon as they clear you for pizza." The siblings exchanged a conspiratorial grin, shared language older than lost. Nurses drifted in and out. Evening bled peach across the window blinds. Briar's smile faltered, replaced by a seriousness far too heavy for 13. She tugged Aiden closer. "There were more," she whispered, eyes flitting to the hallway as though cult walls might reform. "Kids younger than us." Ward said the ridge still owed him. The sentence sat between them like unspent dynamite. On the hospital roof, Kate balanced crutches and a tablet wired to the recovered drone core. She rewound the last sweep frame by frame. Amid the cooling grays of pre-dawn footage, one lingering thermal echo pulsed deeper along Granite Ridge, a human-sized ember where no rescue team had ventured. The drone's battery died on that frame, leaving a pixelated red teardrop hanging in digital night. She saved the still, naming the file Echo 1, then texted Aiden a single line, "Ridge isn't finished." Below, city lights flickered on, ordinary and oblivious. In the ward, Aiden's phone vibrated. He read the message, thumb hovering over reply. Outside the window, Orion climbed the sky the way it had on the night he vowed to return, its belt pointing toward the mountains, toward whatever waited, still unfound. He slid the device away and pulled his siblings into a fierce embrace. For tonight, reunion was enough. But the ember burned in his pocket, a compass needle already beginning to twitch.